On the morning of July 4th, as Americans prepared for a day of celebration, millions found something unexpected in their inboxes. The Social Security Administration had sent out an email, one that would soon become the talk of the nation. For many, it appeared to be just another government update, but the subject line hinted at something far more significant. This wasn't a routine notice about benefits or a reminder to check your account. Instead, the email claimed that a brand new tax law, championed by President Trump, was about to dramatically change how Social Security benefits would be taxed. The message was clear. A seismic shift in policy was on the horizon, and it would affect millions of retirees and working Americans alike. The timing of the email was no accident. It landed just as President Trump was preparing to sign what he called the Big Beautiful Bill, a sweeping tax and spending package that had been the subject of heated debate in Washington for weeks. The symbolism of releasing the news on Independence Day was unmistakable, suggesting a new era of financial freedom for seniors. According to the email, the new law would lift a major financial burden from the shoulders of seniors. For decades, retirees had worried about how much of their Social Security income would be lost to taxes. Now, the message promised, that worry was about to disappear. The announcement painted a picture of relief and optimism, with many envisioning more money in their pockets and less stress about their financial future. But as the initial wave of excitement swept across the country, doubts quickly began to surface. Was this too good to be true? Could such a massive change really happen overnight, and with so little warning? Online forums and social media lit up with questions as people tried to verify the claims and understand what the new law actually meant for them. The bold assertions in the email soon drew the attention of journalists, tax experts, and government watchdogs. News outlets scrambled to confirm the details, while financial advisors cautioned their clients to wait for official clarification. The debate grew heated, with some calling the announcement a political masterstroke, and others warning it could be a case of misinformation or even a deliberate attempt to sway public opinion. In a matter of hours, the email had become a case study in the power and peril of political messaging. It blurred the lines between fact and spin, leaving millions of Americans wondering what was real and what was just another headline in an era of constant controversy. The email's central claim was clear and bold. Nearly 90% of Social Security beneficiaries would no longer pay federal income taxes on their benefits. This was presented as a sweeping change, one that would impact millions of Americans who rely on Social Security for their retirement income. The message was crafted to sound official, using language and formatting that mimicked real government communications, making it easy for recipients to believe its contents at first glance. According to the email, this dramatic shift was thanks to a new law recently passed by Congress. The message implied that lawmakers had come together in a rare moment of unity to deliver meaningful tax relief to seniors, a group often at the center of political debates. Commissioner Frank Bisignano was quoted in the email, calling the change a historic step forward. He tied the announcement directly to President Trump's campaign promises, suggesting that this was a fulfillment of a long-standing pledge to protect seniors' financial security. President Trump himself was featured in the email, echoing the message at public events and rallies. He declared, "No tax on Social Security for our great seniors," reinforcing the idea that this was a personal victory for older Americans and a signature achievement of his administration. The message didn't stop there. It was repeated across official channels, campaign rallies, and even on social media, making it seem like an indisputable fact. News coverage and campaign visuals further amplified the claim, giving it an air of legitimacy. For many seniors, the email felt like a personal victory, a simple, powerful promise finally fulfilled. The idea of no longer paying taxes on Social Security benefits was both emotionally and financially appealing, offering hope and relief to those on fixed incomes. But beneath the celebratory language and official-sounding statements, the message was more political than factual. The email was carefully crafted to appeal to seniors' hopes and anxieties, but it left out important details and context. The claim was designed to resonate with seniors and influence public opinion, but was it really true? As we dig deeper, it's important to separate fact from fiction and understand what the law actually says. At first glance, the headlines and news stories about the new tax law seemed to promise sweeping changes for retirees. Many people were hopeful, believing that the law would finally put an end to federal taxes on Social Security benefits. But as we dug deeper and examined the actual legislation, a more complicated and nuanced reality began to emerge. Contrary to the initial buzz, the law did not repeal or eliminate the federal tax on Social Security benefits. The existing rules, which determine how much of your Social Security income is taxable based on your total income, remained firmly in place. For millions of seniors, this meant that the tax calculations they were used to did not change overnight. What the law did introduce, however, was a new temporary tax deduction designed specifically for older Americans. This deduction was intended to provide targeted relief rather than a blanket exemption. For individuals aged 65 and older, the deduction amounted to $6,000. For married couples filing jointly, both over 65, the deduction doubled to $12,000. This was a significant amount, and for some, it meant a real reduction in their taxable income. By lowering taxable income, this deduction could reduce or even eliminate the federal tax bill for certain seniors, especially those with limited additional income. However, it was not a universal solution. Seniors with higher incomes or substantial retirement savings could still find themselves owing taxes, even after the deduction was applied. The administration promoted the deduction as a way to help the vast majority of Social Security recipients. They estimated that about 88% of beneficiaries would see their tax liability disappear, at least temporarily, thanks to the new deduction. This projection was based on income data and the assumption that most seniors have modest additional income. Still, it's important to understand that this was an indirect effect. The law did not directly change the way Social Security benefits are taxed. Instead, it offered a deduction that, for many, would have a similar outcome, but only for as long as the deduction remained in effect. Seniors who receive income from other sources, such as pensions, part-time work, or investments, could still find themselves above the taxable threshold, and therefore still subject to federal taxes on their Social Security benefits. In the end, while the law did provide meaningful relief for many, it fell short of the sweeping elimination of Social Security taxes that some had hoped for or that was promised in viral emails. The reality was more complex, offering targeted help but not a universal solution. The gap between the email's promise and reality was stark. The email claimed taxes on Social Security were gone for almost everyone, a simple, definitive message. In truth, the law only offered a deduction that might lower some seniors' taxable income enough to avoid taxes on benefits. The tax itself remained. Whether you paid depended on your total income. The email's claim was a misleading oversimplification, presenting a best-case scenario as a universal truth. For seniors with additional income, the promise was false and potentially harmful. The message was political spin, not a factual update. Many recipients were left confused, and some risked making poor financial decisions based on misinformation. The email drew swift criticism from former SSA officials and policy experts. Jeff Nesbitt, a former deputy commissioner, called it blatant political propaganda, noting the agency had never issued such a message before. Critics argued the SSA's role is to provide clear, factual information, not campaign talking points. Tax experts quickly debunked the claim, clarifying that the tax on Social Security benefits still existed. They warned that misleading seniors could result in unexpected tax bills and penalties. The consensus, the SSA had failed its duty to inform, instead muddying the waters with political rhetoric. The incident was seen as a serious breach of public trust. The controversy erupted in Congress, with Democrats accusing the Trump administration of politicizing the SSA. Representative Frank Pallone called the email blatant misinformation and demanded investigations. Lawmakers questioned how such a message was approved and called for accountability from SSA leadership. The concern, a trusted agency, had been used to distribute campaign material at taxpayer expense. Republicans largely stayed silent, while the White House and SSA offered no comment. Seniors were left confused and anxious, unsure what to believe. Advocacy groups fielded calls from worried beneficiaries seeking clarity. The fallout highlighted the need for honest, nonpartisan government communication. To understand the confusion, it helps to know how Social Security is taxed. Since 1983, benefits can be taxed if your combined income exceeds certain thresholds. $25,000 for individuals, $32,000 for couples. Up to 85% of benefits can be taxable, depending on your income. These thresholds haven't changed in decades, so more people pay tax over time. The new deduction could help some seniors drop below the taxable threshold, but it doesn't change the underlying rules. For those with higher incomes, the deduction offers only limited relief. The email ignored these nuances, presenting a complex calculation as a simple, universal win. The reality, most rules stayed the same. This controversy is about more than tax policy. It's about trust. Millions rely on the SSA for accurate information to make crucial financial decisions. False claims can lead to unexpected tax bills and real hardship, especially for those on fixed incomes. Using a neutral agency for political messaging erodes public trust and blurs the line between service and propaganda. If citizens doubt official communications, the government's ability to function is compromised. Trust in institutions like the SSA is essential for social cohesion and the social contract. Younger generations' confidence in the system depends on transparency and integrity. Accuracy isn't partisan, it's the foundation of good governance. The misleading SSA email is a cautionary tale for everyone. Even official sources should be approached with critical thinking. Look for specifics. Does the message cite actual laws? Is it vague or overly celebratory? Seek independent verification from trusted news outlets, advocacy groups, or tax professionals. Being an informed citizen means questioning and cross-referencing information, no matter the source. Trust must be earned and verified. In matters of financial security, it's always better to double-check before you act.